Hi friends! So, let's be objective. Everyone has a very opinionated, passionate opinion about this because we're all on the same page. Nobody wants to see people gunned down. Unless you're an egregious criminal about to gun somebody else down, then, that's a different story. But we want the end result. So, knowing that, we want the same end result of no more gun violence. Let's be objective together. So, gun violence in America, over 30,000 deaths per year. Other countries, it's between 1 and 13 on the high end. That's Germany on the high end. To be fair and objective, we're about 3 times the population, so you have to factor that in. So, okay, they have 39 deaths per year by gun violence compared to our over 30,000. So why is it so lopsided? I'm not calling for gun control. And I disagree with people who do call for gun control. I'm calling for checks and balances. And even the people that call for gun control, almost all of them, they're describing checks and balances, but calling it gun control. And then of course when people hear gun control, it really creates a deep divide. So I don't call it gun control because it's not, and I don't believe in it, and it doesn't bridge any communication gap where really we all want the same thing anyway. And that is, we don't want to see people being shot to death. So, what is checks and balance? Checks and balance is where you put that line of what's allowed and what isn't allowed. So, 93% of the population wants a universal background check, and we can't get it. Therefore, this is not a functioning democracy. Anything that has a 93 or 83 or 73 or even 63% approval rating, as long as it's not a constitutional issue, we're going to get it yesterday. There's no debate about it anymore. But this is a 93% issue. 93% of the country wants to close the gun show loophole and require a universal background check. And we can't get it. It won't even come up for a vote on the House or the Senate floor. So we don't have a functioning democracy. We have a Congress that is literally the enemy of the people. So how did that happen? Well, the kids recently in Florida, 17 shot dead, their friends that witnessed them dying, witnessed their friends, people that they love and care about, watch bullets go through their bodies and die, some of them in their arms. These kids are actually calling out what it is, and that is the money, the bribery that takes place in politics. The NRA and gun manufacturers, they make their money by selling guns, just like drug companies make money by selling drugs. Fossil fuels make their money by selling oil and gasoline. Well, the NRA and gun manufacturers make their money by selling drugs. And they have lots of money that they've bribed our politicians with. So when people are talking about all the reasonings for gun control or lack of gun control or checks and balances or lack of checks and balances, people are way off on the reasoning on these. The reason is the money that's involved in politics. Our leaders are literally bribed financially in a system of legalized bribery to respond to massacres and mass shootings with let's pray, let's love each other. Now is not the time for politics, even though it is the time, because there's more than one mass shooting per day in this country. So the kids that watched their friends die recently in Florida, for the first time that I've witnessed, after every mass shooting, there's so many of them in perpetuity that they're never ending, and there's guaranteed going to be another and another. But for the first time now, I'm watching people come out and say, it's because of our politicians take all this money from the NRA and gun manufacturers. That's why they do nothing, except talk about unity and loving each other, and now's not the time for politics, but they don't do anything. And that's why we have a universal background check with a 93% favorability, and we cannot get it. It's because our leaders are bought and paid for by the NRA and gun manufacturers. Those kids that were shot to death, the parents of those kids, their friends, they didn't donate to politicians. And if they did, it was crumbs. They didn't donate the millions of dollars that the NRA and gun manufacturers donate. So a politician is looking at that going, those kids that are being shot up, shot to death, and slaughtered, they're not donating to me. These other guys that make their money by selling guns that are used to slaughter those kids, yeah, they're the ones giving me my paycheck. So I'm going to do their bidding. And that's what's happening. So these kids, man, that are out there in the media being whistleblowers, actually, they got more guts. They're more acutely aware of what's going on than most adults. Because when most adults talk about it, they're not talking about the legalized bribe money that's resulted in the situation that we have. But those kids are. And now that they are, and the media is actually reporting that, good for the media, because the media typically stinks. I mean, the media typically stinks horribly, but the media is actually showing these kids and reporting these kids just whistleblowing against the money corruption that's involved in politics. So good for those kids. Oh, I just love them so much. And you give credit where credit is due to the media. They're finally, at least in this instance, they're partially doing their job. That's pretty cool, man. So here's the argument that people give about checks and balances and criminals are going to break the law anyway. Yeah, criminals are going to break the law. But hear me out on this. There's 130 some odd objective studies that show checks and balances chips away at the number of deaths caused by a gun. Doesn't get rid of it totally, but it chips away, man. So if we get something that 93% of the population wants, like a universal background check, and close the gun show loophole, that's an amazing start. That would certainly chip away. What if we cut the number in half? Instead of 13-something thousand, it's 15 or 20,000 deaths a year. Long way to go, but damn, that's a nice chip off the block of 30-something thousand. I mean, other countries that... Germany, the Germans have a lot of guns. They don't have as many as we do, but they're a pretty heavy gun-populated society. They have about 13 deaths a year by gun violence. They have checks and balances. They got guns, but they're checked and balanced. We don't have sensible checks and balances here because the NRA and the gun manufacturer lobbyists, they bribe our leaders with lots of money. So whatever other reason you're using behind it, it's BS. Smoke and mirrors, man. It's all smoke and mirrors. The real reason is because they're legally bribed. And they're not going to say that they're taking all this money from the NRA and gun manufacturers. They don't disclose that conflict of interest. That's what it is. In our medical profession, doctors and lawyers, they'd be in jail for it. It's an egregious conflict of interest. But our politicians can do it. It's legal. So if it's legal, why don't they disclose that with us? Because they know it looks bad. It makes them look really bad. So God bless these kids right now that are not even of legal voting age yet, being the whistleblower that they are, calling out the politicians for taking all this money from the NRA and gun manufacturer lobbyists. Because no one else is doing it, and it needs to become in everybody's conscious thought, especially when we go to vote. Every midterm, every election cycle, we should know who's on the take, who's taking all that bribe money, and who isn't. That's it. And speaking of that, the next thing is, where's the solution to all that? Well, check this out. This should give you tons of hope and reason to take some action and show up and vote. But there's now 51 people and counting who openly reject all forms of bribe money. All of it. All of it. They reject it all. They're principled. They're running clean elections. There's 51 and counting people running for various House and Senate seats who openly reject it all, and they call out their opponents for taking bribe money. Unfortunately, the media doesn't really cover them. Shame on them. But they're out there, and you need to become aware of who they are so that you have someone to vote for instead of voting for the lesser of two evils like we've always done. 51 people and counting. Google research. I'm not going to tell you who they are because I don't want to be one of those people telling you who to vote for. But I want you to look them up. Google research, Open Secrets, Money in Politics. Open Secrets, Money in Politics. Find out who's on the take, taking in all that legal bribe money, and find out who isn't. And now we have a choice. We didn't have this choice before. Now we do. So there's no reason to sit at home, and there's no reason to vote for the lesser of two evils. We have somebody to vote for to get all the money out. So find out who's on the take, not just taking from the NRA and gun manufacturers, but who's taking money from drug companies and Wall Street and the military industrial complex and the fossil fuel industry. Find out who's taking all that money because that's who they're going to be working for. They're not going to work for you. That's the only reason why we have things that have 60, 70, 80, 90% approval rating and we can't get it. So we don't have a functioning representative democracy right now, but now we have a chance to get one because there's 51 people and counting running for various House and Senate seats who openly reject all of it so that they can be clean and uncorrupt. And so you need to show up and vote this midterm and this next election, not just the regular election cycles, but the midterms. These 51 people are running this midterm, not just the next election cycle, but this midterm. So we need to show up and vote. Please share this video and get it out there. I'm not here with an agenda of telling you who to vote for, but I have an agenda to help you become aware of the bribe money that is in politics and to make you aware of there is a solution now. 51 people and counting that we need to show up and vote for. And you figure out who it is that you want to vote for of those 51 and counting that are running. And unseat the people that don't represent you. And think about this. It's not like this is some innocent issue. People are being shot up to death for the sake of this particular video. There's other issues with healthcare and big energy and the military-industrial complex, but just for this one issue alone, people are literally being massacred. And so you think about the conflict of interest that's being created, that the conflict of interest is more important to our political leaders than people having the right to be alive and not being shot at. So what it boils down to, in my opinion, every politician that is taking legal bribe money and accepting that conflict of interest, they are not just different than you and I. They are flat out morally inferior. It's not a respectable difference of opinions. These are the lowest of the lowest people on the earth that would prioritize a conflict of interest over the lives of other people from being shot up to death. That is not a different person. Those are inferior people. And we need to unseat them by showing up and voting for the people that are not accepting any legal bribe money. And I mean that with all my heart. So please share this video, get it out there, and let's be objective and respect each other's difference of opinions. The only page that we really need to be on the same page on is getting all the money out of politics so we can have 100% clean elections and clean candidates and clean politicians. That way we can have honorable disagreements and agreements, and when there are disagreements, we can have a battle of philosophies versus a battle of smear tactics. And from there, there's always going to be progress. I want to have principled disagreements and agreements, and we don't have that right now. So please share this video. Get it out there, man. And I'm going to read some of the comments here, see if there's anything I want to comment back on. So give me a moment while I scroll. I appreciate everybody being here because this message is important, man. It's the message, not the messenger. They can try to control, but people are going to get them on the streets or black market. That's right, Connie, but I think you made that comment before I made my one point. 130 objective studies that show you apply checks and balances, we chip away at the number of gun violent deaths. So that alone makes it worthwhile to find out what those checks and balances should be and to enact them without the bribe money preventing us from doing that. Let's see here. A lot of people watching, cool. It's simple in order, let's see, Paul says, it's simple in order for government to take away AR-15s, they will have to agree to demilitarize our police. The Second Amendment is for citizens to protect themselves from tyrannical government. So, shoot, this thing makes it hard to read tyrannical government. So obviously people are not going to agree to give assault weapons to government, so that government is only one with capability to slaughter their citizens. That's the crux of the matter. And that's a valid point. It is a crux of the matter. The government cannot be trusted. Under Obama, our police have been turned into military paratroopers. Yeah, that's true too. That's all I have to say on this. Also, FYI, I do not own a gun myself. Yeah, those are all valid arguments, Paul. But the thing that goes to the heart of all those arguments, it goes to the corruption of the money in politics. So getting all of the money out of politics goes far beyond getting a representative government in terms of what we want in checks and balances on guns. This goes to the quality of the people, and it goes to every issue. It's the one issue that is the umbrella issue over every other issue is getting all the money out of politics. I mean, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to fiscal and monetary policies and foreign trade, the military-industrial complex, and on and on and on, our infrastructure, a New Deal, a green technology revolution, all of it, it's getting all the money out of politics. So Paul, you raise many valid points that I think I would agree with, and getting all money out of politics is the one thing that affects all of that positively. I hope that makes sense. Lots of people watching. Cool. The government and others needs to do more for the mentally ill. Absolutely. And one thing we should do is probably not let people who are mentally ill have access to purchasing guns. But recently our government laxed those laws and said, yeah, it's okay if you're mentally ill, you can get a gun. Oh boy. Lots of people watching. Let's look at Fast and Furious. I've heard of that movie, but I never saw it, Stephanie, so I can't say. Paul also says, NRA is a smoke screen from the left. This is not the NRA fault. Responsible gun owners have thwarted evildoers in the past. Only liberal media doesn't publicize those stories. Let's see here. If we are talking money in politics, how about all the unions' donations to Democrats? They far exceed NRA donations greatly. Please don't spread the liberal media false narrative that is the NRA fault. That's complete bullshit. Well, Paul, I have to say, this is really bipartisan. 93%. I'm talking Democrats, Republicans, independents. We want to close the gun show loophole. That's not a partisan issue. Maybe in Congress. And that raises an interesting point and another objective observation. American citizenry, the constituents, were actually more united than we've been in a long time. Granted, the loudest people make it seem like we're not united, but we are. There's a lot of issues we have over 80% agreement on, some over 90%. But in Congress, it's pretty much divided down party lines. So this isn't a leftist thing or a rightist thing or any of that stuff. 93% of all of us want to close the gun show loophole and require a universal background check. There's no question about it. And then your other point about the unions donating. I'm against all of it. Man, get all the big money, donor money out. I'm against all of it. I'm a single standard person, not a double standard person. So, Paul, I hope you stuck around long enough to hear that. More people watching, cool. Looking for more comments. Lisa says, thank you. You're welcome. Connie says, good. Good. Okay, Connie says, and all they needed was as simple from a person that cares and sticks by them to mental health care. And I was having a hard time reading what you sent. I guess autocorrection is sometimes not too friendly. All right, I'm all caught up in the comments, so if nobody has anything else, I'm going to end this video. I hope it made sense. I hope you guys are sharing this and whistleblowing about the money in politics. All that other stuff is smoke and mirrors, all those other reasons why you think these shootings keep happening. And, I mean, forget all of it, man. It's all money in politics. It's all the legalized bribes in politics. And that's something that all of us agree on. That's another thing that has like a 90-something% approval rating, or is it upper 80s? 80-something or 90% approval rating. Republicans, Democrats, independents, liberals, whatever. We want money out of politics. We don't want our leaders to be bribed. So as you're sharing this, please frame it in that issue. Otherwise, it's probably just going to continue to be divisive and go nowhere kind of stuff. Frame it as what it is, the root cause, man. Everything else is a symptom of the root cause. It's the bribery in politics, okay? All right, so I'm going to end this now, and this will be posted on my Facebook timeline. It'll be archived. I'm keeping it because this was really good. So thanks everyone for showing up, and much love to you, man. Mwah.